The council chamber was quiet except for the soft humming of the station's systems. Thoriel stood in the center, his crystalline body reflecting the dim lights. He looked at the data screens floating around him. Each screen showed the same terrible news. Another colony was gone. Another world had been consumed. Speaker Ventress moved his 6 limbs slowly as he approached the display. His amphibious skin changed color from blue to dark purple. It always did that when he was afraid. And right now he was very afraid. How many this time? Ventress asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 14 billion souls, Thoriel said quietly. The entire Margot system, gone in less than 3 days. The other council members sat in silence. 47 species made up the Galactic Confederacy. They had built a peaceful civilization across thousands of worlds. They had cured diseases, ended hunger, and created art that spanned galaxies. But none of them knew how to fight a war. The Vratok were different. They were not interested in peace or trade or friendship. They only consumed. World after world, they ate everything. The biomass, the resources, even the atmosphere. They left nothing behind but dead rocks floating in space. "We cannot stop them," said Delegate Morvan, a flying creature with 4 wings. "Our defense systems only slow them down. They adapt to everything we use." Ventress knew this was true. The Confederacy had powerful shields and automated drones. But these were designed to protect, not to destroy. His people had evolved past warfare thousands of years ago. All 47 species had. They had achieved peace by forgetting how to make war. Now that peaceful nature was killing them. "There is one option," Ventress said slowly. He moved to the central console and pulled up an old file. Very old. "Protocol Omega." The chamber erupted in voices. Some delegates shouted in their own languages. Others made sounds of fear or anger. Protocol Omega was ancient, from the earliest days of the Confederacy. It was designed for the worst possible scenario. "You cannot be serious," Thoriel said. "That protocol sends a message to unknown space. To the dark zones. To regions we marked as dangerous." "I am very serious," Ventress replied. His color had shifted to deep red now. "We are dying. Our children are dying. In 3 months, maybe less, the Vratok will reach our core worlds. Do you want to tell your people you had a chance to save them but were too afraid to try?" The chamber fell silent again. Ventress activated the protocol. Deep in the station's core, an ancient beacon came to life. It had not been used in 800 years. The beacon began broadcasting across all known space and beyond, into the dark zones where survey ships had disappeared, into regions marked with warnings that said "do not enter" and "extreme danger" and "hostile life forms." The message was simple. Ventress had written it himself. "We are dying. We need warriors. Any species capable of war, please respond. We will pay any price. Please help us." Days passed, then weeks. The Vratok continued their advance. 2 more colonies fell. The Confederacy prepared evacuation plans for their core worlds. Some delegates began to lose hope. Then, on the 23rd day, the beacon received an answer. The signal came from Sector 4479. Ventress checked the old star charts. That sector was flagged in red with multiple warnings. "Deathworld zone," the file said. "Avoid at all costs. Probe lost. Do not return." But someone from that sector had answered their call. Ventress played the message for the council. A voice spoke in a language they did not know. But the beacon's translation system worked quickly. Within minutes they understood the words. "Received your distress call. We are coming to help. Send coordinates. We will be there in 6 days." The message included basic information about the responding species. Their name, humanity. Their world, Earth, their star, Sol. 6 days? Morvan said. "That sector is 40 days away at maximum speed. How can they reach us in 6? "I do not know," Ventress admitted. "But they are coming." Thoriel moved closer to Ventress. His crystal body was dim with worry. "Did you check the survey data on their world?" Ventress had. He wished he had not. The data was 800 years old, from the last probe sent to that region. The probe had barely escaped. Its report was terrifying. "Earth is a Category 12 death world," Ventress read aloud. "Gravity is extreme. Atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen. Weather systems are violent and unpredictable. The surface is covered with predators. Every ecological level contains species designed to kill. The dominant species appears to be apex pack hunters. They show signs of tool use and tribal warfare. Status: do not engage. Avoid all contact." The council chamber became very quiet. Pack hunters, Morvan whispered. Predators, what have we done? Asked another delegate. Ventress looked at the star charts again. In 6 days these humans would arrive. These creatures from a world where everything tried to kill everything else. These pack hunters who had survived by becoming the best killers on their planet. We asked for warriors, Ventress said quietly. We asked for a species that knows how to fight. That knows how to kill. He paused and looked at each council member. Be careful what you wish for. We might have just invited something more dangerous than the Vratok into our space. Thoriel's light flickered. Should we cancel the beacon? Tell them not to come? Ventress thought about the 14 billion souls lost at Margos. He thought about his own children on his homeworld. He thought about every innocent life in the Confederacy that would be consumed if they did nothing. No, he said finally. They are our only hope. Even if they are predators. Even if they are dangerous. We need them, the council voted. It was not unanimous, but it passed. They would allow the humans to come. They would meet with these Deathworlders. They would ask for their help. Ventress sent the coordinates to Station Primus. Then he began preparing. The station's medical teams were told to expect high-gravity species. The meeting chambers were reinforced. Security protocols were updated, but Ventress knew the truth. If these humans wanted to harm them, there was nothing the Confederacy could do to stop them. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back. They had placed their fate in the hands of Apex, predators from a nightmare world. All they could do now was wait and hope they had not made a terrible mistake. 6 days until the Deathworlders arrived. 6 days passed faster than Ventress expected. When the human ships arrived, they did not announce themselves with elaborate greetings or diplomatic messages. They simply appeared at the edge of Confederate space, 6 massive vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Ventress watched the ships on his display screen. They were ugly compared to Confederate vessels. Where Confederacy ships were smooth and elegant, designed for beauty and efficiency, these human ships looked brutal. Their hulls were scarred and dark. Weapons covered every surface. They looked like they were built for one purpose only: war. The lead ship, the UNS Indomitable, requested permission to dock at Station Primus. Ventress granted it immediately. What else could he do? They had called for help, and help had arrived. The docking bay was modified to handle high-gravity species. The artificial gravity was lowered to 0.6 G, the minimum the station could manage. Medical teams waited nearby in case the humans needed help. Security drones hovered in the corners, though Ventress doubted they would be useful against a species that evolved to survive on a death world. When the airlock opened, Ventress got his first look at humanity. They were terrifying. The humans walked upright on 2 legs, their movements smooth and efficient despite the lower gravity. They wore dark uniforms covered with equipment. Their faces were flat with forward-facing eyes, predator eyes designed for hunting and tracking prey. The lead human was older than the others, his face lined with age. He stepped forward and stopped a respectful distance from the Confederate delegation. When he spoke, his voice was calm and deep. I am Admiral Deho of the United Nations ship Indomitable. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Ventress tried to keep his color neutral, showing neither fear nor aggression. I am Speaker Ventress of the Galactic Confederacy. We are grateful you came. We are desperate, Deho nodded. We need to understand the threat. Show us everything you know about the Vratok. The meeting moved to a conference chamber. 3 more humans accompanied Admiral Deho. Captain Minji was a female with sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. She moved like a hunter, always aware of her surroundings. Dr. Hana was also female, carrying data devices and recording equipment. Lieutenant Taeyang was younger, but his eyes held the same predator focus as the others. Thoriel presented the data on the Vratok. Images of consumed worlds, videos of the swarm attacking colonies, numbers showing the death toll. The humans watched in silence. They did not react with horror or fear like most Confederacy species would. Instead, they studied the data with cold professional focus, like they were analyzing a problem that needed solving. Your defense systems, Captain Minji said after the presentation. They are designed to delay, not destroy. We do not have weapons like yours, Ventress admitted. Our species evolved past warfare thousands of years ago. All 47 member species did. We have no armies, no soldiers, no concept of strategic combat. That is why you are losing, Deho said. It was not cruel, just a simple statement of fact. The Vratok are predators. They understand only consumption and survival. You cannot negotiate with them. You can only stop them. Delegate Morven spoke up, her wings trembling. Your species clearly understands warfare. May I ask why? Why did humans not evolve past such violence? Dr. Hana answered. Because on Earth, violence was necessary for survival. Our world is harsh. Almost everything on Earth evolved to kill something else. Our ancestors survived by becoming better hunters than anything else on the planet. We did not have the luxury of peace. You are predators, Thoriel said quietly. Yes, Deho replied without hesitation. We are. But we chose to aim that predator nature at protecting others rather than harming them. That is why we came. Not to conquer you, but to help you survive. Ventress felt something strange. It might have been hope. Can you stop the Vratok? Possibly, Captain Minji said. But we need resources. Ships, supplies, support. And you need to understand what you are asking for. War is ugly. People will die. Many people. Are you prepared for that? The Confederate delegates looked at each other. They had spent thousands of years avoiding death, avoiding violence, building a civilization based on peace and cooperation. Now these humans were telling them that peace had a price. Sometimes that price was paid in blood. What choice do we have? Ventress asked. None, Deho answered. You have 3 months before the Vratok reach your core worlds. Maybe less if they accelerate their advance. If you want to survive, you need to fight. And you need to learn how to fight from us. Lieutenant Taeyang activated a holographic display showing a 3-phase military operation. Phase 1, reconnaissance. We insert small teams into Vratok territory to study their behavior and find weaknesses. Phase 2, disruption. We strike at key hive nodes to slow their advance. Phase 3, eradication. Full military assault to destroy the swarm completely. The plan was detailed and brutal. It involved weapons the Confederacy did not possess, tactics they had never considered, a level of organized violence that horrified them. But it also offered something they had not had in months, a real chance at survival. The vote was called. The council debated for 2 hours. Some delegates argued that accepting human help would change the Confederacy forever, that learning warfare would corrupt their peaceful civilization. Others argued that a dead civilization had no culture to protect. In the end, the vote passed. The Confederacy would authorize Operation Stormbreak, the human military plan to stop the Vratok. After the meeting, Ventress walked with Deho back to the docking bay. The human moved smoothly in the low gravity, barely seeming to notice it. May I ask you something? Ventress said. Of course, why did you really come? You said we called for help, but your species does not know us. We have never met before. Why risk your lives for strangers? Deho stopped and looked at Ventress. His predator eyes were steady and calm. Because you asked. Because you needed help. And because if we let the Vratok consume your space, eventually they will reach ours. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the smart thing to do. He paused, then added, also humans have a saying, we are our brother's keeper. It means we look after each other. Today you are our brothers. We will look after you. Ventress watched the Admiral return to his ship. The human moved with purpose, with confidence, with the bearing of a creature that had never known what it meant to be prey. For the first time since the Vratok appeared, Ventress felt something other than fear. He felt hope. The Deathworlders had come, and they brought with them the one thing the Confederacy needed most, the knowledge of how to survive in a violent universe. The war was about to begin. The human forward base was built in 3 days. It floated at the edge of Confederate space, a collection of modular stations connected by docking tubes. To Ventress it looked temporary and fragile, but the humans assured him it would serve its purpose. That purpose was training. Sergeant Jinho stood in the training bay watching the Confederate volunteers. There were not many. Most Confederacy species could not imagine fighting, could not force themselves to harm another living thing. Only a few hundred had volunteered across all 47 species. Jinho did not judge them for this. He understood. These species had evolved differently. They had built peace into their very nature. Asking them to fight was like asking a human to breathe underwater. It went against everything they were, but some had come anyway. And Jinho would teach them. Again, he shouted at the Luminian named Cortex. Cortex was a crystalline being, his body made of living silicon. He held the training weapon awkwardly like it might bite him. He aimed at the target drone and fired. The shot went wide by 3 meters. "You are thinking too much," Jinho said, walking over. "Stop thinking. Just react. Your body knows what to do. Trust it." "My body knows how to grow crystals and process light," Cortex replied. "It does not know how to kill." "Then you will learn." Jinho was not unkind, just firm. "Because if you do not learn, the Vertok will kill you and everyone you love. That is the truth. Accept it." Cortex looked at the weapon in his hands. Then he looked at Jinho. "Does it get easier?" "The training?" "No," Jinho said honestly. "But you get stronger. Now again." While the volunteers trained on the base, Captain Minji prepared for the real mission, the reconnaissance operation into Vertok territory. Her team was small: Lieutenant Hyun, Sergeant Bora, and Corporal Junho. 4 humans against an entire swarm. They had done worse odds before. The stealth dropship left the base at night cycle, though in space there was no real night. It crossed into Vertok territory 6 hours later, moving slowly to avoid detection. The ship's systems were designed to minimize heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions. To scanners, it would look like a piece of space debris. "Approaching the target world," Bora said from the pilot seat. "Looks like they consumed it 3 weeks ago based on the decay rate." Minji studied the planet below. It had once been a Confederate colony called Helios Prime. 8 million people had lived there. Now the surface was covered in organic Vertok structures. Hive towers rose into the atmosphere. Processing pools glowed with bioluminescence, and everywhere, the Vertok drones moved in organized patterns. "Set us down in Grid 7, Minji ordered, "near that cluster of processing facilities. That is where we will find useful data." The dropship landed in a crater hidden from sight. The team put on their environmental suits and checked their weapons. Each carried a plasma rifle, a sidearm, grenades, and a knife. The knives were Junho's idea. He said you should always have a backup when the technology fails. They moved through the alien landscape in silence. The Vertok structures were disturbing to look at. They pulsed like living organs. Tubes carried biomass between buildings. The air smelled of decay and chemical processes. "Getting bio readings," Junho said quietly. "The structures are not just buildings. They are part of the Vertok organism. The whole planet is becoming one giant creature." "That explains how they coordinate so well," Hyun said. "They are not just communicating. They are connected." Minji made notes on her datapad. This was important information. If the Vertok were truly a hive organism, then disrupting their connection might weaken them. They spent 2 hours gathering data and samples. The Vertok drones ignored them, too focused on their processing tasks to notice the small human team. Then the mission went wrong. A Vertok hunter emerged from a processing pool. These were different from the worker drones. Larger, faster, covered in blade-like appendages. This one was 3 meters tall and clearly designed for combat. It saw the human team immediately. Its sensors locked onto them and it released a shriek that echoed across the hive. "Run!" Minji shouted. The team sprinted back toward the dropship. Behind them, more hunters emerged. The entire hive was waking up, responding to the alarm. Drones poured from structures. The organic towers began pulsing faster. Bora stopped and turned, raising her rifle. "Go! I will slow them down!" She fired in controlled bursts, dropping the lead hunters. But there were too many. They kept coming like a wave of blades and teeth in rage. A hunter's claw caught Bora across her side, tearing through her suit. She fell, blood spreading across the alien ground. "Bora!" Junho tried to go back for her, but Minji grabbed him. "We need extraction now," Minji said into her communicator. "We are compromised." On the Indomitable, Admiral Daeho made a decision. He sent everything. Gunships screamed down through the atmosphere. A full Marine platoon led by Lieutenant Taeyang dropped from orbit in assault pods. The rescue force hit the Vertok like a hammer. Taeyang's Marines formed a perimeter around the downed team, firing into the swarm. The gunships strafed the hunters with plasma cannons. The noise was incredible. Junho reached Bora and started treating her wound. It was bad but not fatal if they got her to medical bay quickly. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I can crawl if I have to," Bora replied through gritted teeth. "Just get me out of here." The extraction was violent and loud. The humans fought the Vertok in ways the swarm had never experienced. They used grenades to create cover. They fell back in organized lines, always keeping fire on the enemy. They protected each other with a coordination that came from years of training and evolution. The Vratok learned something that day. Humans were not easy prey. The dropships lifted off under heavy fire. 2 Marines did not make it back. Their names were Corporal Kim and Private Lee. They died buying time for the others to escape. Back on the Indomitable, Bora was rushed to medical bay. The doctors saved her life, though she would carry the scars forever. Minji delivered her report to Admiral Deho. The Vratok are a connected organism. The hive nodes are the key. If we can disrupt enough nodes, the swarm will lose coordination. Can we kill them? Deho asked. Yes, Minji said, but it will cost us. They adapt fast. They know about us now. The next fight will be harder. On the training base, Sergeant Jinho gathered his volunteers. He told them about the mission, about the fighting, about the Marines who did not come back. Cortex listened quietly. Then he picked up his training weapon. Again, he said. I want to learn again. Jinho nodded with approval. The volunteer was beginning to understand. War was not about glory or excitement. It was about doing what needed to be done, no matter the cost. It was about standing between the innocent and those who would harm them. The Confederate volunteers trained harder after that. They had seen the price of weakness. They had seen what the Vratok did to helpless worlds. They were not ready yet, but they were learning, and that was enough for now. 3 weeks after the reconnaissance mission, the combined fleet gathered at the rally point. 6 human capital ships and 30 frigates, 20 Confederate support vessels with medical bays and supply stations, and 10,000 human Marines ready for combat. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Deho stood before the holographic display of the Karo system. This was the target, a major Vratok hive complex that coordinated swarm activities across 6 star systems. We hit them here and we hurt them badly, Deho explained to his command staff. But they will fight back with everything they have. Expect heavy resistance. Captain Minji looked at the tactical display. The space battle will be the easy part. The ground assault will be hell. Those hive nodes are buried deep underground. We will need to fight through kilometers of organic structures. Lieutenant Taeyang was assigned to lead the ground assault. He had handpicked his team leads and reviewed the plans 100 times. He knew the cost would be high, but they had no choice. Stop the Vratok here or watch them consume more worlds. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Karo system. Immediately, the Vratok bioships swarmed toward them. Hundreds of organic vessels, each one grown rather than built, each one a living weapon. All ships engage, Deho ordered. The space battle was chaos. The Vratok ships moved like insects, fast and unpredictable. But human pilots had trained for this. They flew their fighters through the swarm, targeting weak points that the reconnaissance data had identified. Confederate shield ships moved into position, creating protective barriers for the larger vessels. For the first time, humans and Confederacy species fought together as one unified force. On the Indomitable's bridge, Minji coordinated the fighter squadrons. Wing 3, break left and target those cluster formations. Wing 5, protect the medical ships. Do not let anything through. The battle raged for 2 hours. The Vratok lost over 200 bioships. The combined fleet lost 5 frigates and 1 Confederate support vessel. 2,000 souls went silent in the cold of space. But the fleet secured orbital superiority. That meant the ground assault could begin. Taeyang stood in the drop pod bay, checking his equipment one last time. Around him, his Marines did the same. They were quiet, focused. They knew what was coming. Sergeant Jinho's squad was part of the assault. So were 300 Confederate volunteers, including Cortex. The Luminian had trained hard for 3 weeks. He would never be as good as a human Marine, but he was good enough. And he was determined. Listen up, Taeyang called out. Our objective is the primary hive node at coordinates 774. We plant the antimatter charges and get out. Simple plan. But the Vratok will not make it easy. Stay close to your squad. Watch your sectors. And remember your training. The drop pods launched. They fell through the atmosphere like meteors, shaking violently. Then the pods slammed into the ground, their doors blowing open. Taeyang's squad hit the ground running. The landscape was nightmare made real. Organic towers leaked fluids. The ground itself moved and pulsed. And everywhere the Vratok warriors waited. The fighting started immediately. The Vratok warriors were designed for combat. Fast, strong, and fearless. They came at the human Marines in waves, but the Marines were ready. They fought in coordinated units, covering each other, advancing in controlled pushes. Plasma rifles lit up the alien landscape. Grenades created cover. Marines fell. But their squads kept moving forward. Jinho's squad fought their way toward the hive entrance. Cortex stayed close to the sergeant, firing his weapon with growing confidence. A Vratok warrior charged their position. Jinho dropped it with 3 shots to its central mass. "Keep moving," Jinho shouted.
"We are almost there!"
They reached the hive entrance, a massive tunnel that led underground. The interior was worse than the surface. Organic walls dripped with unknown fluids. The tunnels twisted and branched. Acid pools bubbled in chambers, and the Vratok warriors were everywhere. Taeyang's team pushed deeper. They lost Marines with each turn. Private Han died when a warrior got past their line. Corporal Su fell protecting the demolitions team. The names kept adding up, but they kept moving forward. Finally, they reached the node chamber. It was massive, the size of a city building. The hive node pulsed with bioelectrical energy. Organic cables connected it to the entire network. This was the target. Lieutenant Hyan and his demo team started placing the antimatter charges. They needed at least 10 minutes to set them properly. "Form a perimeter," Taeyang ordered. "Nothing gets through." The Vratok realized what the humans were doing. Every warrior in the hive converged on the chamber. They came from every tunnel, every entrance, a tide of blades and rage. The Marines fought like they had never fought before. They held the line against impossible odds. Ammunition ran low. Jinho switched to his sidearm, then to his knife. They gave ground only when they had to. Cortex stood at the perimeter, his crystalline body reflecting the weapon's fire. He had learned much in 3 weeks. How to aim, how to breathe under stress, how to keep fighting when everything in his peaceful nature screamed at him to run. A Vratok warrior broke through the line. It charged straight at Hyan and the demolitions team. The team could not stop working. If they did, the mission failed. If the mission failed, more worlds would die. Cortex made a choice. He stepped forward and put himself between the warrior and the humans. The Vratok's blades hit his crystalline body. They cut deep. Cortex felt his structure cracking, pieces of himself breaking away. But he held the warrior for 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds, it was enough. Jinho shot the warrior from behind. It collapsed. Cortex fell too. His body was shattered, crystal pieces spreading across the organic floor. "Charges set," Hyan shouted. "Move!" Everyone move. Jinho grabbed Cortex and started dragging him toward the exit. The Luminian was heavy, but Jinho did not leave people behind. Ever. The team ran. Behind them, the charges began their countdown. 30 seconds. The tunnels shook. Vratok warriors chased them, but the Marines provided covering fire. 20 seconds. They reached the surface. The dropships were coming in for extraction. 10 seconds. Everyone loaded into the ships. Jinho placed Cortex carefully on the floor. The Luminian's light was dim, fading. 5 seconds. The dropships lifted off. 0. The explosion tore through the underground complex. The hive node vaporized in an instant. The antimatter reaction spread through the organic network, destroying connections, severing communications. Across 3 star systems, the Vratok stopped coordinating. Drones attacked each other. Bioships drifted without direction. The network had been disrupted, but the cost had been terrible. 27 Marines dead, 3 Confederate volunteers lost. Cortex dying in the medical bay of the dropship. Dr. Hana tried to save him, but his crystalline structure was too damaged. In his final moments, Cortex looked at Jinho. "Did we stop them?" Cortex asked weakly. "Yes," Jinho said. "We stopped them." "You stopped them." "Good," Cortex said. His light faded completely. Then it was worth it. The first major victory against the Vratok had been won. But everyone who survived understood the price. This was only the beginning. More battles were coming. More good people would die. That was the reality of war. That was what the Confederacy had forgotten. But they were remembering now. 2 months after the battle at Cairo System, the war had changed. The Vratok were retreating, not from fear, but to consolidate their forces. Every drone, every warrior, every hive node was pulling back to one location. Hive Prime. It was a massive planet in the Thanatos cluster. Intelligence reports estimated trillions of Vratok organisms on that world. Every unit from every consumed system, all gathering for a final defense. Admiral Deho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the tactical display. Hive Prime glowed red on the screen. This was it. The last battle. Win here and the Vratok threat ended. Lose and the swarm would eventually recover and continue consuming. The fleet is ready, Captain Minji reported. Earth had sent reinforcements. 12 more capital ships, 50,000 fresh Marines. The human military had committed everything to this fight. The Confederate fleet had grown too. 20 support vessels, medical ships with advanced healing technology, and supply carriers. The Confederacy could not fight, but they could support those who did. And some Confederates had learned to fight. 2,000 volunteers now served in the ground forces. They had trained with human Marines, learned tactics, overcome their peaceful instincts. They would never be as effective as the Deathworlders, but they were warriors now. That meant something. Lieutenant Taiyang gathered his Marines in the assembly bay. The ground assault force numbered 30,000. Their objective was simple but brutal. Land on Hive Prime, fight through to the core nest, and destroy the Queen Mind, the central intelligence that coordinated the entire swarm. This is going to be the hardest fight of your lives, Taiyang told them. The Vratok are defending their homeworld. They will use everything they have. Many of us will not come back. He paused, looking at the faces around him, human and alien, young and old, all united for one purpose. But we are going anyway, because if we do not stop them here, they will keep killing. They will reach our worlds eventually. This ends today. We end it together. The fleet entered the Thanatos cluster. Hive Prime came into view, and it was worse than anyone imagined. The entire planet was covered in organic Vratok structures. The surface looked like a living creature. Hive towers reached into space. Processing facilities the size of mountains pulsed with activity. All ships orbital bombardment pattern Alpha, Deho ordered. Soften their defenses before ground insertion. The human warships opened fire. Plasma cannons and missile batteries lit up the darkness. The orbital bombardment lasted 3 hours. Entire sections of Hive Prime burned. But it was not enough. The core nest was too deep, too well protected. Ground forces would have to finish it. The drop began at dawn, though on Hive Prime there was no real sun. 30,000 soldiers fell from orbit in assault pods and dropships. The landing was opposed from the start. Vratok bioweapons fired from the surface. 3 dropships were destroyed before they landed. 600 lives gone in seconds, but the rest made it down. The ground assault began. Taiyang's force landed on the eastern continent. Their target was 80 kilometers away, the primary nest entrance. Between them and the objective were millions of Vratok warriors. The fighting was hell. The Vratok came in endless waves. The Marines fought for every meter of ground. They used grenades to clear choke points. They called in airstrikes on large concentrations. They fought through toxic atmosphere and extreme conditions that would kill most species. But humans were Deathworlders. They had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. This was just another Tuesday for humanity. Sergeant Jinho's platoon fought for 72 hours straight. They ate while moving. They slept in shifts during brief pauses in the fighting. They kept pushing forward because stopping meant dying. The Confederate volunteers fought beside them. Fess, a reptilian Sauron, saved 3 Marines when a hive collapse nearly buried them. Nira, an avian from Skyreach, used her natural flying ability to scout ahead and warn of ambushes. They were not human, but they fought like they were. After 3 days of continuous combat, Taiyang's force reached the core nest entrance. The tunnel went down for kilometers, deep into the planet's crust. This was where the Queen Mind lived, the central intelligence that made the Vratok swarm possible. Final push, Taiyang said into the comm. All units advance into the nest. No stopping now. The descent into the nest was a nightmare. The organic tunnels were tight and twisted. Acid dripped from the ceiling. Vratok warriors attacked from every shadow. The Marines fought with plasma rifles, then pistols, then knives, then fists. Whatever it took to keep moving. Lieutenant Hyon's demolitions team carried the antimatter charges. Each charge weighed 40 kilograms. They had to be placed precisely around the Queen Mind to ensure complete destruction. Finally, after hours of fighting underground, they reached the core chamber. It was massive. The Queen Mind filled the space, a creature the size of a city building. It pulsed with bioelectrical energy. Organic cables connected it to the entire Vratok network. The Queen Mind tried to communicate. It projected images into their minds. Peace, coexistence, sharing the galaxy. Taiyang ignored it. Set the charges. We are ending this. Hyun's team spread out, placing charges around the chamber. The Vratok warriors made a final desperate push. Thousands of them poured into the chamber, trying to stop the humans. The Marines formed a defensive perimeter. They fired until their weapons ran dry. They fought hand-to-hand when the Vratok got close. Bodies piled up on both sides. Charges set, Hyun called out. 30 seconds to detonation. Everyone evacuate. Taeyang called for extraction. The Marines fell back, fighting every step. But the Vratok were too many. They could not hold them off and escape at the same time. Hyun made a decision. He stayed behind. Go, he shouted to the others. I will hold them. Hyun, no! Taeyang tried to go back, but Marines grabbed him and pulled him toward the exit. Hyun faced the Vratok swarm alone. He fired his rifle until it overheated. Then he drew his sidearm. Then his knife. He fought like a human, like a Deathworlder, like someone who refused to die quietly. When the Vratok finally overwhelmed him, Hyun triggered the charges manually. The explosion tore through Hive Prime's core. The antimatter reaction vaporized the Queen Mind instantly. The blast traveled through the organic network, destroying every connection, severing every link. Across the planet, Vratok drones stopped coordinating. They began attacking each other. The Hive intelligence shattered. Within hours, the swarm was destroying itself. The battle for Hive Prime was over. The Vratok threat was ended, but the cost was staggering. 14,000 human Marines dead. 600 Confederate volunteers lost. 3 capital ships destroyed. Lieutenant Hyun's name was added to a very long list of heroes. 1 month later, Station Primus hosted a memorial ceremony. Representatives from all 47 Confederacy species gathered. Admiral Deho stood beside Speaker Ventress as they unveiled a monument to the fallen. We called into the darkness, Ventress said to the assembly. We were desperate and afraid. We did not know who would answer. But the Deathworlders came, not to conquer us but to save us. They taught us that peace must sometimes be defended by those willing to fight for it. Deho accepted the Confederacy's highest honor on behalf of all human forces. His speech was brief. We did not come here to be heroes. We came because you needed help. That is what neighbors do. Later on Earth, Sergeant Bora visited the memorial garden where names of the fallen were carved in stone. A young girl approached her. Are you a soldier? The girl asked. Yes. Are you a hero? Bora thought about Hyun, about Cortex, about all the people who did not come home. No, she said finally. I just stood up when people needed help. That is all any of us did. The galaxy was safer now. The Vratok were gone, and the Confederacy had learned that sometimes survival requires more than hope. Sometimes it requires warriors. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and the universe would never forget.